What's going on, guys? We are back with another exciting episode of Popping Through Culture. I'm Chris, and this is Rico, Mixed Matching Socks.
What up, what up?
So, this past episode was great. We had actually a dual episode. So,
Yeah.
It was a dual episode. It was split between Jubilee and Storm and Forge.
Yes.
So, we had Jubilee going in with fighting Mojo, right?
Uh-huh.
But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, right? What happened in that opening credits? I know we've been super excited about the opening credits, hearing the sound and everything, but first thing to note was the sound. The sound on the opening credits was different from the last one. They tuned it back a bit.
So does that mean now Disney owns the rights to the X-Men theme song? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm talking about the tone of it. Like it's beat. So now it was, before it was like high def beat.
Yeah.
So now it went to like a 16-bit, right?
Oh,
Right?
yes,
Yes.
you're right.
Yes.
8-bit.
8-bit?
8-bit.
8-bit, I guess so. More like aiming 16-bit because on the Motendo that they watched or they were playing in there had 16-bit.
Gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
Might be 8-bit. I don't know. My bits are a bit
I
off.
should have recapped and did my homework, right? Man. Okay.
So what else? What else happened on that opening?
Well,
Well, I'll tell you what happened because Rico left his book at home. So I would tell you. So they took out Storm. Storm is no longer in the opening credits because Storm doesn't have power, so she's not an X-Men anymore.
you're right.
Yes,
You're absolutely. They replaced her with
with another scene of Jubilee fighting
Did they?
Mojo. Yes, there's a
the
scene.
Jubilee and Longshot scene.
Yeah. Well, yes, more or less, but it's her fighting Mojo, which is she flips down the glasses and she's fighting Mojo.
Yeah.
So is a foreshadowing to that episode that she's gonna go fight Mojo.
Yeah.
Right. Because we open up to Jubilee. It's Jubilee's birthday. They're having a
19?
jubilation.
Jubilation. Isn't that a real name? Jubilation?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so. Yeah, Jubilee. Jubilation.
Jubilation.
Yeah. So anyway, so their jubilation is a celebration. Another word
Yeah.
for celebration, right? Mm-hmm. And so she wants to go have a party, and because it's her birthday, and she's like, "Oh, let's go have a party." And Magneto's like, "Nay, nay, nay,
Right?
nay! You need to go keep training because
Yeah.
Sentinels may just shoot out of the sky any second now." And she's like, "Well, you're a big sick in the
Like,
butt."
she's been training for 5 seasons straight.
Yeah, which
They
is
go back to 91. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole saga, she was an X-Men in training.
But it's comic time, so is that like 6 months? It's time dilation,
Yeah.
comic time
Or
operates
maybe was it all
different than...
in 1 year? Lots happened in 1 year of the X-Men universe.
Exactly. I mean,
Jeez, man.
have you watched the show 24? 24 episodes, that's one day.
1 day.
I'm just saying.
How do you have a second season of that? You can't.
It'd be
It's
48.
done. So exactly. Now they completely changed the title. And, oh my goodness.
It would be the second 24. 24 part 2.
My goodness. Also, didn't they show outside of Longshot and Jubilee, which was a homage to the original X-Men, but they also showed Weapon X, not Weapon X, sorry, New Mutants, and that's when they showed Forge.
Yep.
Also, I want to say they showed the Hellfire Gala as well. Correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, because they're doing a when Professor Xavier is doing he was trying to project himself,
Yeah.
and he goes through and he's trying to look for them, but then he runs into Emma, and that's where they show Emma.
Yeah.
Because in the original one, Emma stopped him. He was like, "Wait a minute! Like someone else is stopping my my telepathy," and like he's like all twisted up.
Personally, I think if they're going to keep showing Professor X in the opening credits, he's not dead.
Well,
he's going to come back.
Well, he's not. He's not dead. He got taken away with the Shire on the last season.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I thought
Yeah.
I thought they said he was dead. They have a grave for him and everything.
They told the people he died
Oh my goodness!
because we all know comic book people
They
don't
don't
ever
die.
die.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean-
going to come back at the end of this episode, and then where's that going to put Magneto? Is he because Magneto cannot be a good guy?
And if we're gonna go back to the comics, Magneto is still a good guy, but he got killed. Spoiler alert. So if you're reading the comics, Magneto got killed, and so now Storm is actually trying to save him in the spirit realm and then fight with the Shadow King to get him back because he could be revived by the Five in the Krakoa egg shell, crack an egg, Easter egg thing. So what happens is we got Gambit trying to put moves on Rogue, and
Oh yeah,
and Magneto shut that down too.
yeah. Well, there's a history between Magneto and
Rogue, yeah, they go back a long way before.
Like they even have a kid
Rogue.
together. Yep, they have a kid together.
Which one is that?
Magneto and Rogue.
What kid? What kid is that?
I don't remember his name or her name.
You bring in half concoct
research,
information.
look it up. It's research and development. I'm telling you, I'll bring it back up.
Half concoct.
When the editing part of this episode, I'll make sure to pop it up right there. Right, this is where we're gonna pop it up.
I'm gonna have to do
Yeah,
the information.
I got a spot
right there.
for you.
Okay.
Spot. We're gonna put it right there. So yeah, they had a relationship, and I think it began in the Savage Lands, which we saw a homage to that in the last episode.
Well, we'll see a homage to that, or in this episode when they're gonna go in the Savage Lands to fight.
Ooh,
in the video game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You would know that if you had your notes.
Yeah, I know. I left them at the shop, man. It was Russian, and I don't mean the Soviet kind. I mean like moving in a hurry.
I'll say you're really dark Russian.
I can go for him. Oh my goodness.
So now you have Jubilee trying to have a party.
Yes.
Magneto shut that down. Gambit trying to put moves on Rogue.
Yeah.
He shut that down.
Yep.
You got Morph trying to hey, lighten up because, didn't you have parties when you were a kid? And he shut that down too.
Yeah,
He's like, my parents died when I was a kid.
Straight
So
up. I was like, wow, dark side.
wow. He's like, shut everything down. He's like, nay,
Yeah.
nay.
Well, yeah, man. He had a hard life growing up. He doesn't know childhood.
No.
He knows concentration camps, and he knows, he witnessed his parents basically murdered, and then, what happened to him? The rest is history. You get this.
His first wife is killed. His daughter's killed.
Yeah.
He goes through a lot. So
I think me and you a couple weeks ago.
we talked about that.
And I was like, no, that only happened for the storyline of the movie.
And I said, nay.
And you brung it up. Like, that escaped me. I don't think I even read that episode.
Yeah.
Or issue.
Issue.
Man, this guy.
Full knowledge, man.
Not that I was the guy that had a Rolodex of comic books.
Keep it up.
Thanks.
Anyway, right? That's what we're there for, right? So then we we go into Jubilee's room with Romeo.
Roberto.
Sorry.
Yeah. Roberto.
Roberto, aka Sunspot, and they're in the room, and we see a bunch of Easter eggs in there. We see Jubilee has a doll of Longshot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has.
You're right. I did not notice that the first time around. I only picked that up the second time.
Yeah, Easter eggs.
Man.
And then there's a poster in the back that looks kind of like a Nine Inch Nails poster. So it's set in the 90s. That kind of would have been something she probably might be into.
So are you saying that's where, 97, it would be taking place in the 90s. Sorry. I'm all whack today. Didn't get my Snickers.
He had a big corn muffin, though. Scuffed that down.
Yeah.
No problem.
It was thick. I swear, it was thick.
Don't sleep on the Costco brand, guys. Not sponsored. So
The more you know.
So then they pan over to the Motendo, which is a play on Mojo and Nintendo.
But it looked like a Sega.
But yes, it looks just like a Sega.
Like, way to throw it all in at the same time.
Yeah, so they threw a whole bunch of different things, and then the Game Master Legacy is what it kind of looks like. But then you go into the game, it kind of looks like the arcade game.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It looked, to me, remember the Turtles video game?
Yes.
Where they're running through the office building?
Yeah.
And, the foot soldier would come out of random closets, and there was a staircase. It reminded me of that when they were running through, I want to say, the hallway. And I was like, all I could think of was, oh, man, the Ninja Turtles 2, not 1, but 2.
The game?
Yeah, and I believe that came out on Sega Genesis. Turtles 1 came out on NES.
Oh, yeah. So they get abducted or trapped by the tentacles, which kind of reminds me of Superman 2. Right?
Yes.
Like when the robot, the machine takes over the assistant and
Yeah.
she starts screaming and she comes out, I will kill her. So it kind of reminded me of that. I'm like, okay.
Cool.
So we got that. So they get sucked in, and then they wake up and they're like, "Oh, we're in the middle of the city. How do we get here?" I'm like, at that point, and then they go to the next place. Oh, where's all these sentinels? And then they get transported to another place. Oh, we're over here. At what point? How long did it take them to realize? Oh, we're part of a game.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think no. We have to go back. First, they meet Jubilee's older self,
yes,
and
arbitration, Arbor. Anyway, her.
well, they brought back the original voice actor for Jubilee to play the older version of Jubilee, which was a pretty cool idea that they did that. And it just obviously it shows. I think we were talking about it in earlier episodes, that Jubilee has a future in the MCU. Well, not the MCU, but in the Marvel comic books.
Comics, yes.
She's a lot of like independent, standalone comic books, not just X-Men. And she's lost her powers. She's gone through time. She's became a vampire at one point and a vampire hunter at another point, and then it all recycles and she gets her powers back. And I think it's really cool to show what Jubilee's gone through based off of what the older version of Jubilee looks like. And that was a really cool way of I guess showing where she, based off of who she is now opposed to where she's at in the comic books.
Sure.
And maybe we'll see her again. Maybe.
Well, she's been around. She started in X-Men '97 or X-Men 90s, the animated series, but she's actually in the comics since '89.
Yeah.
So she's been with X-Men, the team and everything for quite a long time, even before the '90s.
Yeah.
So and then obviously she's still with the X-Men to this day.
Actually, I read that comic not too long ago. It's the first appearance of Psylocke in her outfit that she's wearing.
blue one?
And it's also the first appearance of Jubilee in her classic yellow jacket.
The raincoat thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that not too long ago. I didn't even know I had it up on the shelf.
Yeah.
So just bored, reading comics like I always do.
Trying to get some information. So then I got some PTSD. I don't know about you when they had the dial up when they were getting brought into the game. I started tweaking. I'm like, no, not that sound. Can't go back.
I remember as a kid, I would get on the internet late at night. You guys probably know why. And my mom was like, "Rico, get off the internet." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
All right, yeah, take it up that bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
And then so they get sucked in, and they go. They got the Sentinels attacking them. They got the Friends of Humanity attacking them, and then they get to Genosha.
Yeah.
When she mentions this is old Genosha, right? Because they were still building it. Because in the first season, I think it's episode 3 or something like that. When they're the slaves, they're being all slaved, and they're building the Genosha, whatever, the different area. And you have different cameos. So we got cameos. We got Domino was in there. We saw Domino. We saw Blob, and we also saw Sunfire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got some different cameos in there, and a recurring character we see later on in the show, which was a cameo last week, was Spiral.
We saw Spiral. Yes, we did see Spiral.
So Spiral in the original series, she was helping Mojo capture everyone and be part of his show. And this one, she's helping getting them out of the game. Which because now he actually mentions when you finally meet Mojo or see him on screen.
Oh goodness!
I was like, did he get a lipo? What happened there?
Dude, yeah, and
he
lost so much weight. Like for what? And I love the fact that they acknowledged it in the episode. That was really cool. Like because I bet you the creators knew that we were going to look at this and see Mojo again for the first time and notice there's something completely off, like 200 pounds off.
It's like when a very oversized person loses a lot of weight and they have all that extra skin.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they made sure Mojo was just. He said, "Yeah, I lost weight, yada yada yada, on a diet," and I thought that was really cool because that at first it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, why would they do that to him? Like, well, just let him be that creepy, monstrous character that he is. But then he acknowledged it. I'm like, all right, that's not so bad. At least
because they also mentioned his size or his stature is linked to the ratings. So he's like his ratings were sinking and everything else. So he had really bad ratings. So he lost the weight. But then that's why he's like, oh, I need to pivot to games. So now that's who he switched over to doing games, and that's when they sucked him into a game as a part versus a show. But he also mentions a few shows in the talking to them and talking to all the characters. So you have who's the boss?
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Which all the characters on there who's the boss
It's awesome.
is a boss of the X-Men team at some point in the timeline. And then you also have a different world.
Yeah.
And then you have a divorce court, which is kind of like a play on
Like Judge Judy?
well, yeah, Judge Judy or any of those divorce one shows, right? But it's also a play on Jean Grey and Cyclops right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they going to have a divorce? What's going on? Because Jean's back, and they're like, we're in this awkward phase. Like, you didn't know it was me.
Yeah.
It wasn't me.
I don't know. Like, well, like how do you, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing how that's going to play out. Like, I don't feel like the next episode when we go back to the full team, they're going to be like, it just didn't happen or we're immediately over. At least I hope the creators don't allow us or allow the show to run on without that being answered.
Sure.
There has to be some major conflict between that, you know? Like, think about it. Like, Cyclops, the last episode, Cyclops hated the fact that he needed to let his son go into the future. He even made it a point to say, I don't want to be like my father. So that's something he's going to have to deal with or mourn about, the loss of his son. But at the same time, this version, or I guess you could say the A variant of Jean Grey is like, I don't have the same emotion because it wasn't my son to lose.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's going to be like a conflict between them two.
Like, I need to go get my son, and it's like, that's nice. That's your son, not mine.
Yeah.
See you later.
So, yeah.
So then now they fight Mojo, right? And then you have older Jubilee finally reveals to young Jubilee, like, hey, it's me, and you can actually have power.
Yeah.
And she like just zooms around and like her feet, like she just shoots around and uses her powers as momentum, kind of like how Cyclops was doing in episode 1.
Yep.
Which is a cool use of how they've adapted their powers or evolved their powers to better use and better as opposed to just shooting sparks or shooting a laser beam. So that was pretty cool to see, and then having them team up to finally defeat Mojo, and then get him sucked in, and Spiral brings him out, and then that way they can get out of the game. And then you have them kissing at the end, which is the romance scene.
Well, you also have Sunspot dies, but he had to continue. He died in that episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in game.
Well, yeah, in the game he died.
Yeah.
But like Mojo said, you die here, you die there. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Freddy Krueger.
So is he dead in the real world?
Yeah, if you die in the game, you don't come back.
So how is he out in the real world then?
Because he had a to be continued.
No, they wound up kissing at the end.
Yeah, because he lived.
But you just said he died.
Well, yeah, he died in the episode. But then the word continued came out of his body. And then he came back to life.
So you got a 1-up.
Yes. Yeah, check it out.
All right.
That's how it happened, bro.
So that was the Motendo portion.
Motendo.
That was the Motendo version or portion of the show. And now then we jump over to Life and Death with Storm and Forge.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? And that is actually that whole part of the episode is ripped right out of the books.
Yeah.
Part 1 and part 2, Life and Death.
Yes.
Right.
It was mainly a part 1. When she gave it up on herself and what's his name again? I'm sorry. Forge was kind of keeping the truth of who he really is. And in the comic books, just like in the show, he really cares for her.
Yeah.
And he wanted her, to stay with him and not go back to being the X-Men. Which leaves me to question, does he really care if she gets her powers back? Because, if she had her powers back, she would no longer want to be there. She would want to go back to the X-Men where she has purpose.
Well, Forge is ultimately a member of the X-Men, not right then and there, but he becomes a part of the X-Men and becomes a really big part of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Because he's the mutant's answer to Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Because he's basically Tony Stark, but his mutant ability is to be able to imagine or create different, contraptions and different things. And he's the one that actually, has the blueprints for the collar.
Mm-hmm. And X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 186, I was hoping that they would take, they kind of ran it close to the storyline course, but when they showed his home, I really wish they took that imagery out of the comic book and put it into the episode where he had no doors, no floors. Everything looked like it was on layers, but it floated almost.
Okay.
And he lived in a glass house of technology, and I was really hoping to see that, but we didn't. But at the same rate, it was a cool episode. And I was hyper focused more on that part of the last episode than the whole Mojo world. Mojo world. It's just I liked that part of it, but I was more interested in that love story, that love-hate ending to love-hate story of them two.
Yeah, because Mojo, even in the books, is kind of like a throwaway villain.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the villain of the week. It's like, okay, he's defeat him. But the second part, the life and death part of the show, has a bigger meaning to it because you have Storm, who loses her powers.
Yeah.
And then the relationship between her and Forge.
Yeah.
Forge ultimately trying to help her to get the powers back. But then you have the big villain in the show is the Adversary, which was brought onto the plane from Forge.
Yeah.
Because Forge was fighting in Vietnam. Right? He was originally a shaman for his tribe, and then he wound up trying to abandon it and everything else. But because he was still a member of that shaman tribe, that he actually had to help defeat the pretty much the Spirit King. The Adversary is like a avatar of the Shadow King, I believe. Right? So in a way to defeat the Adversary, they actually had to kill off, I think, a whole bunch of X-Men, use their power to defeat the Adversary, but then later on, the issue wound up bringing everyone back to life. So he's a much bigger villain as opposed to like Mojo, which is really cool about like the second part, because there's going to be another part for the next, I think, not the next episode, but the episode after that. Episode 6 should be part 2 of this.
And they also show with the continuity of Forge is something like a full circle. Like Forge invented the technology that gave the production of that gun to have Storm to lose her powers.
Yep.
And that kind of like led a question with me, like when they did the island where they were keeping the mutants. Did he also create that the collar?
Yeah. So he did.
Yeah. I didn't know that. At least maybe I forgot it, or I didn't put two and two together. But I just thought it was really cool that the reason.
Yeah, because he's actually in the picture in the background when he's going through all the different characters, because you have the X-Force where you have Multi-Man, you have Quicksilver there,
Iceman.
You have the big bulking guy.
Strong guy.
Wolfbane's in there. And then I always forget the girl with the green hair. Yeah, so next to that picture is a picture of him and Dr. Adler. So Dr. Adler is the one who actually finished creating the collars. So the design and the how they were going to do it, whatever, or like the basis to the collars was from Forge. He basically created the schematics, but then Dr. Adler is the one who fully created the collars. And he's in that picture there.
That's what's up.
Yeah. So a lot happened in this episode. A lot of stuff has transpired, and continuing the momentum in the show, continuing the momentum in the episodes. We're looking forward to episode 5 and seeing what's going to happen there. It should be, I think it's all remembering, right?
Yes.
So we'll see who we're going to remember in episode 5.
For sure. And I'm also looking forward to seeing where Storm is going. Like I'm hoping we're halfway through the season. I'm hoping. I really would like Storm to get her powers back before. I don't want that to be the season finale.
Oh, like the last episode, she got her powers
it was
back?
like she had her powers for one episode, and then the rest she's just kind of
2 episodes.
2 episodes, and now she's just in Texas walking around. Like, come on, bro. Like, in the movies, they always shorthanded Storm. I was hoping they wouldn't do that in the series.
Well, because she's an Omega level mutant. I think it's only, no, I was like, maybe they're nerfing her for the MCU, but,
Yeah, they always do that to her. Like, I don't know. Like, she's, like you said, she's a character that has a lot of potential to do a lot of cool things,
And she's had a lot of mates.
Yeah, right?
Right?
Like, are we going to get the scene where she comes back, no powers, and fight Cyclops? Are we going to get that? You know, that would run into the storyline.
Yeah.
If you're going to base it off of where Storm is when she took over the X-Men, she had no powers. So, or the leader. But then again, it's like, is Cyclops really the leader of the X-Men when you got Magneto at the helm?
Well, you have it's more like who's going to be the QB. Because, like, Professor Xavier was the leader of the X-Men, but in field, it's Cyclops.
Yeah.
So you have the coach, and then you have the QB, who's the leader in field.
Yeah.
But then later on in the comics, that's why they wind up splitting up the teams. You have a gold team and a yellow team, or a blue team and the gold team.
But we always, in this season, if you want to compare it to last season, being the QB and the leader, you never saw Professor X out in the field.
No, because that's what I'm saying. So,
But this season, we've seen Magneto out in the field almost every episode.
Well, he's like hands-on.
Yeah.
He's a hands-on.
That's a power struggle right there. You know, I feel like if I was Cyclops, I'm like,
But you've only seen him one time. So that only was last episode when they went to go fight Goblin Queen.
That and, no? 2.
Yeah.
I would say 2.
Which one?
Well, when he was at the courthouse.
You can't really count that one.
You can't count. Well, no, he had to be there. He gave up himself to be there.
Yeah, he was there.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But then when he was out there, Goblin Queen smashed him. You know, like, he was cut up. He ripped he got his clothes literally beat off his body.
Pretty much.
You know? Well, is there anything else you want to wrap up in this episode of Popping Through Culture?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. We got a lot of Easter eggs we picked out. We picked through, nibbled on for a little bit, and we got some more information out of this episode. And really excited for episode 5.
Man, what are you looking forward to in episode 5?
More action.
More action?
I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's really story heavy, which is cool. It's good to see the story because really at the core of it, we've talked about in the past episodes was X-Men is all about the family dynamics and stuff like that. I'm interested to see where they go with Magneto and Rogue.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see Wolverine still sitting and taking a back seat.
Just taking a back seat, right?
Taking a back seat.
With his seatbelt on, looking out the window.
Benched. He is benched.
So, you're right.
Right?
Benched him.
What about you, Rico?
Like you said, like more action. X-Men is more like a soap opera, and I feel like that's what we got in this episode. To me, like you said, with Mojo was kind of one of those characters that is like a throwaway.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it, and after I watched it, I was like, yeah, this was a throwaway episode. This was just something to bridge a gap between what happened last episode, and then it was a filler.
Yeah.
And then the upcoming episode. So we needed that storyline between Storm and Forge to move forward.
Sure.
Did we really need the going through, the arcade game with Mojo World? I think that was just for the fan.
Sure.
Like, that was like, let's give the fans something iconic. Something that they can remember and kind of root for, and it's a throwback to our childhood. The video games and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, like you said, next episode we get a lot more action, a lot more Cyclops. I'm such a big fan of Cyclops right now, and maybe
Wolverine come through.
Some more Wolverine.
Yeah.
It's cool that we got like I said in the beginning of this review on X-Men. I hope Jubilee is more of a front runner, and we get to see her do more stuff hands on, which I feel like we got this episode. And all right, I'm full on that. Let's get back to the X-Men killing Sentinel, not killing Sentinels, so you can't kill a machine, but destroying Sentinels and going through their protection of the world. In upstate New York.
Rochester.
Right?
What up, Rochester?
What up? Well, on that note, this is Popping Through Culture. This is my main man, Chris. I'm Rico, and like I said, keep watching, keep following, keep liking, and keep reading comics.
Go ahead.
I'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Bye. I was gonna say we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye. Bye. Bye.
See you guys later.
Another see you. Ta-da.